Hey guys, this is Tyler. I just wanted to put out a video with a bass focus. I wanted to provide a video to sort of give you insight into the various exercises listed in the bass packet. I have a metronome handy and a practice pad here. I don't have a bass drum with me, but this is a great opportunity for me to show you how you can practice even if you don't have a bass drum. So see if you can borrow some bass mallets, but if not, then you can either use snare drum sticks, either by playing on the front, or you can even turn them over and play in the back. And I personally feel like this is a little bit closer to a bass mallet, so whatever you got, go ahead and use it. We're going to go ahead and start with 8/8/16. So obviously everyone's played the traditional 8/8/16, and what you typically play is a unison rep. So if I go ahead and get my metronome on with quarter notes, you just play through 8/8/16, right? And that is our unison rep, right? So everyone's playing the same exact part. So you'll see the slash notation there. That just means everyone's playing the exact same part. So what does it mean when we have these kind of split examples? So the first one is just splits down the drums. Do, 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 do. And you'll see it has right hand and left hand sticking. So you might be asked to play these individual eighth notes on either the right or the left hand. As we build into twos, you have to actually fill in the partials. So if I put on an eighth note here, I could play an individual eighth note. Like let's say I'm playing the bass 2 part. And ready, go. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Right, I'm having to play an and count. So if I go to a 16th note 2 split, then essentially what that means is it means I'm going to fill in the second note with a 16th note. So 1 and, 1 and, 1 and a, 1 and a, right? So if I was playing the downbeat parts, and ready, go. That's an example of playing twos on every downbeat. And then if I played the upbeats, ready, go, 1. So that's exactly how we're going to play twos. So for example, as we look later into the actual official 8/8/16 splits, let's say I'm playing the bass 3 part, and I'm going to play on count 2 and on the and of 3. And ready, go, 1, 2, and. That would be the first measure, and if I played it as twos, 1, and a, right? Or sorry, 1, 3E, 1, 2E, and a. So essentially just filling in with 2 notes. As we go into split threes, you have to think of a sextuplet feel. This one's a little bit tricky. I like to keep the eighth note nice and loud for this one because the eighth note is the release of your triplet. Like if you played triplet 2, triplet 2, or like triplet and, you can hear that against the metronome. Triplet and. If I take out the and, sorry for the little mistake there, but that's essentially how you play that 3. I could do the same thing with the split 4s, right? These are 32nd notes. Those are a little bit tricky. You have to play them with a little bit of, with some chops there. Each hand is playing a double stroke, kind of together at once. Really make sure that you're not opening it up like this. We don't want to make that triplet and rhythm, right? We want to fill it to where if I added a note, it would be a downbeat. Right? Yeah, so exactly like that. So for example, if I was going to play the bass 3 part with 4s, I would play like this. And ready, go, 1. So you can hear how I'm picking my partial and I'm filling it in with the exact number of notes. So work on this with an 8 note split handy so you can hear the release. And with the 4s. So definitely play this one with a buddy. You can alternate and go back and forth, work through your twos. And then you can practice hearing how that sounds. So as we go into the full split rep, just be ready on your unison rep. Just allow that to be big, open sounds. And then on your individual splits, have a lot of confidence on your individual part. 1 and 2, 3, 4, and whatever partials you're on. Make sure you're very confident about those partials. You're still doing the sticking for the individual eighth notes. 1 and 2, 3, 4, left note. Right? You're going to still follow those stickings. Only when we get to 2s, 3s, and 4s do we always play starting off the right hand. So that's how that's going to work. And then you'll notice the last downbeat is does not have bass 4. That's just because bass 4 is playing right before the downbeat. So we don't want to have to add an extra downbeat on that. So be mindful of that if you're practicing the bass 4 part. As we move on, we go to 16th note, 1 note timing. Or sorry, 1 hand timing, right? So essentially we're taking a 16th note. Let me play this on the Met. And the goal is to take out one hand and have the other hand remain and keep playing legato strokes, right? We don't want to get into this mode where we go into one individual hand and start downstroking like this. So I don't want to downstroke that hand. I want to make sure that it's still flowing and make sure that the left hand is consistently landing on those E's and U's. So for example, if I kept playing the right hand, but if I move it to another surface, you can hear what it's supposed to sound like. So there's still downbeats happening. The downbeats are just not happening in the hands. They're only happening in the feet. Make sure you're always, always, always marking time while practicing this exercise. I only don't have the setup right now because of the way I'm recording, but for example, if I was going to be submitting a video, I would be standing with a waist height stand, so that way I can be marking time the entire time that I'm playing that exercise. Be mindful of the repeats, right? So the first part, 4 bars, repeats once. Second part is 2 bars and repeats once. So here's the whole exercise top down. And 1, 2, ready, go. So there you go. So that's the 16th note 1 hand timing. Make sure you have even motions. As we move on to 3 note timing, these are a series of check patterns. So you'll be taking 1 note out of a group of 4. So instead of playing that digga 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 digga, we're taking out a note. But the key thing here is to identify which hand is always moving. If I look at the first 2 bars here, and ready, go. You'll see my right hand actually kept doing completely smooth legato strokes, right? There's no reason for this right hand to stop. The only hand that has to stop is the left hand. So think about your right hand playing up strokes and your left hand playing down strokes. And then as we go on to the next pattern, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left. In the same way that earlier the left hand kept moving, we still do that here. Let me play the next 2 bars for you. And ready, go. So you see the left hand just keeps on moving. There's no reason to stop that left hand, and then the right hand is going to be the one playing our downstrokes. So that's something to think about for that. And then obviously with the right, left, same deal. The right hand keeps moving, left hand stops, and then the E and A is where the left hand keeps moving. So anytime that you have an 8th note space apart from 2 notes on the same hand, you should always think about having a smooth legato motion. And then if you have a whole quarter note of space, you want to think generally about downstroking that motion, but don't let it bog you down, right? Make sure you're still able to get right back into it and lift for the next stroke. So as you play this, just make sure you can constantly hear the underlying 8th note. Right, as I play through those check patterns, make sure that's not affecting the rhythm. you know, if I like play the rhythms a little bit out of time, you can hear the difference with the eighth note. Right? You can hear when it's like not lining up versus. So you always want to have something lining up with an eighth note or a downbeat. So sometimes you'll have to look for weird checkpoints, especially in that E and a phrase, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play bars 5 and 6. No, sorry, that'd be 7 and 8. Bars 7 and 8, which is the left, right, left, left, right, left pattern. So let's go ahead and hear that. So you can hear the downbeat, but we're not actually physically playing that. So once again, that's where your feet are going to come into play. Foot, da, 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 foot, da, 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 foot, da, 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 foot, da, 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 foot. That's exactly what you want to think about. So I'll go ahead and play this exercise. It's written out in its entirety, so no repeats to worry about here. This is just so that it's the same length as the other exercises. So here it is, top down. And 1, 2. So yeah, definitely making sure that the motions are always smooth throughout that. As we go into triplet timing, I'm going to go ahead and bump the tempo a little bit. This is where we have to think about the same concept, except both hands eventually hit downbeats and both hands eventually hit offbeats. So what you'll hear is that whenever you play this exercise, there's always a moment when at least one hand gets to play on a downbeat. So here's the first phrase. And ready, go. So I'm going to identify where the downbeats are. Ready, go. Downbeat, 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 right? Boom, boom, right? So there's always a point at which your foot is going to connect with your hand, right? Foot, 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 foot. So make sure that you find those points where they're in alignment and make sure you're really feeling exactly when that is and the point of why we're doing that, right? So always when we mark time, the goal is to build connections with our hands. So make sure that you're feeling that connection. Make sure that you're getting smooth legato strokes. It's really easy to get tripped up on the left hand coming back in. Right, coming back in, da, 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 boom. So make sure you just focus on landing on a solid downbeat, again, with the foot. Good, solid feet for mark time. So here's triplet timing. Here we go. And 1, 2, ready, go. There you go. So yeah, just smooth triplets the whole time, making sure that you're finding the downbeats with the feet. As we go into metric modulations, this one's a little bit tricky. So we have to switch between two different rhythms now. So make sure as we play this, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and triple, 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 right? It's really easy to like overdo it sometimes like this. And we're like, oh, what's going on, right? So it's easy to either like way over rush or under play like the triplets. Just make sure that you're always finding like beat 2, 1 and 2, triple and 2, 1 and 2, triple and 2, 1 and 2, triple and 2, right? Make sure you're always finding beat 2 because that's a good way to subdivide exactly where your rhythm's going. What's the point of this rhythm? Let me find beat 2. That way, triple and 2, you always have a good reference point and you're staying grounded. So let's go ahead and play through this exercise. Focus on the transitions between the rhythms. That's the whole point, right? Make sure that da-da-da-dum is nice and in time. So I'm going to go ahead and play this with the metronome. And 1, 2, ready, go. right? So it's a quick one, especially that last bar. It's really easy to kind of like blend it all together. Almost making it like a big 5-lit or something. Make sure you're really strict about the downbeats. If you want to add a variation, try playing all the downbeats as accents. Right? You can hear there's a constant quarter note throughout the entire exercise that you can find with the feet. So that's a good variation to check out. As we get into our moving eighth note, this is like the bass specific timing exercise. This is a really good exercise and a very underrated one. As you play this exercise, let it train you on perfect eighth note partials. As you play this in maybe auditions or even throughout the season, you're going to have to play it with a bunch of other people all at the same exact time without creating any flams, right? So the idea is that everyone has to build up very consistent timing on a sudden attack. 1, 2, 3, and. Like it could be a random note, and you have to just suddenly come in. So let me go ahead and play through this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to vocalize the counts out loud, which is how I highly recommend you practice this. So I'm going to go down to 100. And I'm going to demonstrate how you're going to count through this exercise. Here we go. And 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2. And then you're just going to carry on like that throughout the whole exercise, right? So I definitely recommend practicing this with vocal counts, so that way you can get familiar with 1 and 2, 3, 4. You know, vocalizing it gets you more confident on exactly what's going on, and will also prevent you from accidentally playing the wrong count. Because if you play this in person, it's a very like kind of sensitive exercise almost, because there's a bunch of silence and then suddenly everyone plays together. So obviously playing on the wrong partial is very disruptive to the flow of the exercise. You know, if you have one boom to bong, right? Like someone came in earlier, something like that. So just make sure you're very confident on your count. And that's going to help you when you get to eights, right? If you're able to just play a random count like 1, 2, 3, and, you're probably going to have to do that in eights and also in the show music a lot, right? So as a bass drummer, it's really key that you build up your individual confidence on these notes. So that's definitely something I recommend exploring around with a lot. So play a lot of moving eighth note, and that'll really help you. That's my advice. Accent tap, it's more of like a technique exercise, right? Doing stuff like that, it really involves being able to access a very nice low and relaxed tap height. As you like carry this on the drum, right? It's not going to be a lot of motion. It doesn't look like much, but you really want to feel the weight of this head of the mallet really falling through the drum, taking all the weight from that arm and wrist, and taking this small motion but letting it be a big weight. So don't feather tap the drum to where you can't hear anything at all, but also don't play too loud where you're adding too much energy, right? So find a good space to create sound within. And then as we go to our accents, we have to be ready to lift the mallet. So the upstroke, which is in one of the first pages of the packet in terms of the technique section, it's very important here, right? We play the note, and then we have to immediately come up and play for the next. So practice playing a series of taps followed by an upstroke. And what we don't want is this. Hear how the note is louder? I want to make sure the upstroke happens after the note. What you'll see on the graph is that it goes boop and then it bounces up, right? It's a normal note and then we come up. So that's really key there. So practice this very slowly. And you can see exactly when that upstroke has to happen. So start very slowly and build up. And as we play through this, one thing to look out for is anytime you have 2 or 3 notes in a row, you're going to want to make that a legato stroke, right? We don't want to go down, down. We want to play up, down, right? We want to make sure that that first note is a full, beautiful, wonderful resonant stroke, and then the second one is the downstroke so that we can play that tap. So I'm going to go ahead and play through this at kind of a slow tempo. I'm going to just play through the A and B variations really quick, just so you can see the difference of like the legato strokes to the downstrokes and ups. And 1, 2, ready, go. Sorry, here's B. Yeah, so you can see the difference. It's full down, tap height, and then we bring it back up, right? So just make sure you're taking it really slow, figuring out exactly where the mallets need to be at any given time. And another thing is be ready for the order of this exercise to switch. So for example, we may say, oh, basses, let's play C, D, A, B. So that means you're going to play those first two measures as normal, right? We just have our little check, right, left. And then you're going to play letter C, then letter D, then you're going to skip back and play A and B, or anything like that, right? We may switch around the letters. So practice messing around with the letters on your own, getting used to different orders in which to do the exercise. And this is so we can practice playing different patterns in the battery and then creating our sounds together, even though we're playing different patterns. So as we go into 16th note grid and triplet grid, the big thing is just to make sure you're really owning the counts. It's literally just accent tap, but we're putting the hands together, right? So as you play through these grids, really take your time, play it slowly, and make sure that a foot is hitting every single downbeat. A lot of times it's easy for the feet to want to match the accents, like foot, foot, you know, but you want to make sure it's foot, 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 foot down, foot da, foot da, foot da, foot, bon, foot, bon. Always feeling that difference of the feet and the hands and how they relate to each other. Same for the triplet grid. Watch out for that last pattern. It's easy to like kind of just think of it like, oh, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But don't think of those as like downbeats. Think about da da 1 2 3 da 2 da, right? Always feeling this kind of feeling. Oh, sorry about that. Let me get triplets. So you can hear the difference of the accents and what I'm playing, right? We have right? It's kind of like a groove. So just make sure that as you play through these kind of patterns, you're always feeling the difference of, hey, here's the accent, that's where my feet are, and then I have what's happening in the hands. And if you're having any trouble with these patterns and you feel like your feet aren't super confident, take it really, really slow. Right? Even if you have to go down to like 60 beats a minute, it's better to figure it out, get it exactly right, and then start to speed it up. So with the grids, just make sure you're using the same skill set of the technique of accent tap, and make sure you're combining that with consistent rhythms and really confident notes. As we go into A-B, I would say for this one, just make sure that all of your splits kind of like right. You can just play those as straight up stickings. You know, whatever feels comfortable to you. I know we have like some unison like right, left, and then you have to immediately play afterwards if you're like bass 5 or bass 1. We'll kind of define that in person, but for now, just go ahead and assume everything is off of the right hand. And then just really allow yourself to use that as an opportunity to find good 16th note rhythms. The point of this is for the snares and tenors to do like a double stroke practice. We don't really tend to do a lot of double strokes in bass drum, but we may pull this out as a variation. So be potentially prepared to play it all off the right or all off the left for a measure like stuff like that. But for now, just play everything off the right, right, left, 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 and just get nice and comfortable with those rhythms. There will be 2 variations of this exercise. The first one is as written, the first one is as written, but with everything accented. right? Your individual part is always going to have an accent, and then the second time we play it, or the second variation is where we play it with two heights. So everything that's not an accent, you're going to play it nice and low. So that's how it's going to sound like. So be ready to either play it all at one big dynamic or as it's written with the two dynamics. So be ready for that. Stick control, the big thing is just to make sure that you are very confident on exactly when you're playing. So earlier we had to come in on different eighth notes, right? Now we have to come in on different 16th notes, like we did in A-B, but now it's a little bit more specific, right? You may, like, especially if you look at the, I believe it's the 8th bar. You have to be ready to come in on a random count. So practice with a metronome that has like an 8th note or even a 16th note. Whoa, there we go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a, right? So like, for example, if we look at bar 8, let's say I'm playing the bass 4 part. So what I see is that I'm playing the of 1 and then the and of 2. So I have to go 1 E and a 2 E and 1 E and a 2 E and 1 E and a 2 E and 1 E and a 2 E and. So just make sure you're figuring out exactly where your count is, right? And getting used to playing that part. Or if I'm playing bass 2, it's 1 E 2, 1 E 2, 1 E 2, 1 E 2. So just like highlight your individual note, figure out exactly what partial it's on, and get used to playing that individual partial. If I'm having trouble coming in on the of 1 E and then I can practice just that. Ready, go, 1 E and ready, go, 1 E and ready, go, 1, ready, go, 1, right? So that's definitely the idea there, is just making sure you're individually owning your count. As usual, just leave everything off of a consistent, just like right hand lead. I believe there's kind of a second measure there that shows like natural sticking. That may have been a mistake. We're going to kind of define it in the audition, so just be prepared to play everything as you're most comfortable to play it. The most important thing is that the drums are actually physically right, so we'll kind of get into that more there. With that groove measure, boom, ch, ga-dum, goom, ch, goom. You can just play that all up. Right, this whole exercise is going to be at a big forte, so just really embody that. And then just, learn those counts, be nice and confident. So as we get into Digifuzz, this is where we start to get a little bit faster. So you'll see this one can even go up to 200, right? So I'm going to play it a little bit slower than that, obviously, right now. So let's take like 140 here, right? So having to play twos a little bit faster now, right? So like we did earlier, eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, just learn how to play those 16th notes perfectly in time with each other. You can play this one with a buddy and like just have one person always play the downbeats and one person always play the upbeats, and you can get used to that. So just get really confident with your twos, taking up all the space. Don't just guess, right? Make sure it's like thinking about that individual eighth note. So that way you have a point of reference. Think about the next note, right? Boom. How can you place that left hand to where it's exactly in between the two eighth notes? Sweet. And then we have the next exercise, which is Parafuzz. And it looks like it's actually not labeled on here, which is unfortunate. So I'll have to fix that. But if you look at basically page 4 of the music, it's just the next page. So boom, go ba 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 boom, boom bum 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 bum. So here we just have various different 8th note partials, and you're gonna fill them in with 16th notes. And this is essentially going to be like a paradiddle thing for the snares and tenors, but for basses, it's focusing on getting those check patterns a little bit faster now, right? So we did skill sets earlier that are like 2s. We did our check patterns with our 3-note timing. So now in these exercises, we're going to start speeding them up essentially as the snares and tenors start playing faster rudiments that flow. We want to play our check patterns in a way that supports that as best as possible. So for example, like let's say I'm playing like the bass 2 part, right? I have to be ready to just right? I have to be ready to play my 8th note partials. And then the big thing is when I add in the 16th notes, right? Or like, just make sure you're very consistent in your check patterns, especially those two. So just remember that the right hand is constant, right? So don't play it very downstroky and stiff. And then we have a tag here. Boom, ch, boom, 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 ch, digga, 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 digga. So just big open 4s. Be ready to play those nice and open. It's not super fast, like not getting into this yet, right? So be ready to play it decently fast, but not anything super crazy. As we get into the triplet diddle part, the basses kind of have like a supportive rhythmic part. There's not really a lot of diddles in bass show music, especially at this level. So I find it better for the basses to play a timing exercise. So along with the triplet diddle, the basses are going to be playing kind of like the timing notes that are based on what you're hearing from the snares and tenors. So just don't let the 12/8 freak you out, right? Just remember 8th notes and 12/8, they feel just like triplets. So you can use a triplet met. Whoops. There we go. Triplet, 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 triplet. Right? So if I play that first bar, triplet, triplet, triple, 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 right? So just think about it as just triple, triple, triple. And what you want to do is float that second hand. Because, right, we're going to play another note after, so if I downstroke it, I'm going to really tense up. So really try to flow that. And then as we play the next bar, we have no downbeats again, just like our earlier patterns. Down, down, right? You have to use your foot in place of that hand that we don't have. And then the next one, right, that one's not too bad. So just cycling through these, just make sure that you're very, very confident on your individual partials. Take it nice and slow. You can take it down to like 100 BPM, right? Triple it, triple it, triple, triple, triple it, triple it, pull it, triple it, pull it. It's kind of funny to vocalize it that way, but just get nice and confident on that. Just take a lot of time at the slow tempo and build it up from there. And then as we head into the last two patterns before our tag, right? Those two are just straight out of the triplet timing exercise, so it's the exact same. So we've already practiced that skill set, you're just going to pull it out once more. And then as we head into the 8 and 25 tag, this is where the drumline plays a long role. So it's very important to not get lost in the sauce. Really make sure that you're still finding your downbeats, finding your metronome, right? Right? Our goal is to play really, really consistent triplets all the way to the end. So just really make sure that you're locked in on what you need to be doing with that triplet, so that way we can provide a really, really solid foundation for the snares and tenors, right? So this is the big deal of bass, is like we're providing quite literally the base of the sound. It's the foundation upon which the other textures are built. So being able to lay down rock solid timing is key here. So just to kind of summarize this whole packet, it's really about having very good individual timing so that you can bring that to a full bass line and create sounds at the same exact time together. Each drum produces its own tone, so the key is just we want to make sure that those are happening in unison, right? Just because the drums are different sizes and create different tones doesn't mean that we play them at a different time. And it's really important that for our lower bass drums, we still find our articulation. So don't get super boom, boom into the sound, right? Get boom, boom. Be very articulate and very commanding of the sound you're creating on that instrument. And then as we get to the top bass, it's going to be really easy to tense up, and your sound's going to thin out if you use all that tension that you got, right? If you get too tense on that, you could actually lose some of the sound. So on your drums, like the higher drums, you're really going to want to relax and try to open up and let the mallet do some of the work there. So that's kind of my advice for bass drum. Just own your part. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to the email address. And have a good audition. Good luck, guys.